Hi StoryMakers, welcome back. We are about to dive into chapter 9 of Creation. But before we do that, I want you to go and grab your zine. I'll give you 10 seconds to get it. You ready? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, now that you've got your zine, let's flip it open to our table of contents, which is this big yellow page right here. We're gonna just do a little bit of a recap before we dive into our new chapter. So remember, we started at chapter 1, the very beginning, God splitting the light and darkness, separating the light from the darkness. And then we got into chapter 2, and God is like, I've got more big ideas. So then he split the sea from the sky. And then in chapter 3, we got the lands. He pulled those up. And then chapter 4, he created space. All the planets, all the stars, the constellations, the shooting stars, the meteors, everything you can think of in the universe, God created it on day 4. And then we get into chapter 5, which is day 5. So remember, he's already made the sea and the sky, but we got to put stuff there, right? So what does he do? God puts the birds of the air and the fish of the sea into those specific places. And then chapter 6, day 6, God creates his favorite creation, us, humans. And then on day 7, he's like, it's time for me to take a snooze. So then God took a little nap to remind us that we need to rest our bodies too. And then last week we jumped into chapter 8, and the tone kind of shifted, remember? It went from being super playful when he's talking to Adam and Eve, and even when he snoozed, to being really serious, telling Adam and Eve, giving them really clear directions. Do not eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Now we're meeting a new character in chapter 9, and our tone is still pretty serious, but this new character is a little slippery, if I should say that. So now that you've got your zine, go grab some tools and meet me right back here. All right, guys, now that you've got your zine, you've got your tools, let's take a look at our visual. We've got this really huge snake twisting around this tree, right? And look, this fruit hanging from up here kind of looks like the fruit from last week hanging up here. So maybe the snake is on that same tree, the tree that Adam and Eve were told do not eat from. And look, there's a little face down here in the corner. Maybe it's Adam or Eve trying to tell the snake, like, hey, don't climb up there. We're not supposed to be up there. I wonder what could be happening, and I think we need to dive into our script to figure it out. So let's pop on over to read. All right, guys, now it's time to dive into our script, and today we are reading about the snake.
Whoa.
So, Henry, can you be Adam?
Sure.
Awesome. All right, let's get started. Adam and Eve tended to the Garden of Eden each day. They named creatures, played in the field, and were perfectly happy. One day, Adam and Eve were enjoying the richness of the garden when an unexpected visitor arrived.
Whoa. Eve, what is that creature?
Oh, remember we named that creature Snake?
Look, he is climbing the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Doesn't he know that that tree is forbidden?
Snake, what are you doing? This tree is forbidden.
Whoa,
guys.
Cliffhanger.
Yeah, what could the snake be doing? Well, guys, living in Eden must have been fantastic. I mean, imagine living in the perfect place created just for you. Now, Adam and Eve lived in the Garden of Eden, super close to God, sleeping, eating, playing, and just enjoying everything that God created for them. It sounds really dreamy, right? That is until the snake disturbed the peace and quiet that Adam and Eve had in the garden. In our ancient text, Genesis 3, the snake is described as the most crafty of all the wild animals, which is super crazy, right? I mean, how do you think Adam and Eve felt when they first encountered the snake, right? So they don't know that the snake is super crafty yet. So it's just an animal slithering. So they have to name it first, right? Just like we heard in our story. So they're like, whoa, what are we gonna name this guy? And they name him Snake. Now imagine they come back around. He's slithering up this tree that they're not supposed to be eating from, and they're trying to get him down. Remember in our story, they're like, what are you doing? How do you think they felt then? Maybe they were super surprised, like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? Or were they angry, like, you shouldn't be up there? Or maybe they were a little confused. Like, how did you get up there? Weren't you listening to God? You're not supposed to be up on that tree. How do you think they felt when they encountered the snake again? They were probably also using their intuition. And intuition is just a fancy way to describe our feelings and the way that we use our feelings to judge a situation that we're in. And did you know that God also gave us intuition? Now, intuition is just a fancy way to describe our gut feelings that we get to help us throughout life. And God gave us instincts and intuition to help guide us throughout everything that we do, especially in situations that don't feel quite right. Because a lot of times, or sometimes, our grown-ups won't always be there, or they won't always be near to help us. And so the story reminds us that we have these built-in feelings deep inside of us to help guide us and show us what we're supposed to do in situations that don't feel quite okay. Now, I've got a couple questions for you. All right, guys, so I've got two big questions for you. My first one is this. What can you tell about the story just based on the tone? What can you tell about the story just based on the tone? Now remember, the tone is how the writer is feeling while the writer is telling the story, right? So it kind of sounds a little like, I don't know, really serious, like almost like you want to yell out, don't do it, right? Kind of like Snow White when she's about to eat the apple. So, what can you tell about the story just based on the tone? You can write your answer, you could draw your answer, but what do you think? My second question is this. When was the last time you used your gut instincts in a situation? And maybe it was telling you, don't do that. I drew my answer out in a little comic. So there was this one time when I was younger, my parents were having a yard sale, and I saw this like little black round kind of thing sitting on the ground, and I started to reach my hand toward it to pick it up, but then I started getting this really weird faint feeling in my hand, and I was like, oh, maybe not. So I didn't pick it up. Little did I know, inside that thing, if I had picked it up, were a bunch of spiders. So that was a time when my intuition told me, something is strange, do not do that. And it was really, really helpful. So you can write your answer, you can draw your answer, use all your tools, Yeah, when was the last time you trusted your intuition when something felt strange? Now, let's jump into our activity. All right, guys, so our activity today is life in the garden. So what you're gonna do here is draw 2 scenes. One scene is gonna be what life would be like in the garden if you were there with your best friend and the snake was not there and you guys are just having the best time. So you can either draw it or you can use words to describe what it would be like. So I put fun, there's some creativity, there's action, we're playing, there's so much life. And it is the best time. We're having just like the most amazing time. And then your second image is going to be what it would be like once the snake enters in, right? And so instead of having these like really fun words and everything, and I put mine in the form of like just like kind of like snake-like, right? But once the snake comes in, maybe it's unsure, where it's like a little scary. It's not so fun anymore. There's no play, it's really serious. Some of it feels a little dangerous. So I want you to draw on this side what life is like in the garden. Your best friend is there, you guys are having the most amazing time. And then the snake enters in. So use all your colors, use your imagination, and have fun. Hello guys, what a fun lesson we had today. Our tone shifted last week, and this week it kind of stayed in that same area, really serious, and we're not quite sure what's going to happen next. I can't wait to see what happens next week. But before we get there, and before we close out today, let's say a little prayer. Dear God, thank you for giving us intuition, these gut feelings to let us know when something doesn't feel quite right. In your name I pray, amen. Well guys, today was super fun. Next week it's going to be even more fun, and I can't wait to see you there. Bye.